How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Business Organizations. This is the daytime section, and I will be talking to you about CEOs today. I found a very interesting article in the New York Times regarding James E. Staley, and he is the CEO. He's the current CEO of Barclays Bank. It's a British bank, and because of his ties to a financier, one of the single largest shareholders were really up in arms about it, and they really didn't like the way that it represented his image, therefore how it represented the company, and they did everything that they could to get the man ousted from his position. But before we get into the article, I just wanted to kick off the discussion, or kick off the video with what is a CEO. So in the grand scheme of things, the CEO, or the Chief Executive Officer, is the individual who is chiefly or primarily responsible for the growth and the longevity of the company. And essentially, this person is the face of the company. So they're responsible for representing the company's best interests at all times, whether in their personal or public life. So this person is a key figure to the vitality of the company, essentially. Thus, the shareholders are looking to this individual for leadership. They're looking to this individual for guidance. And most importantly, the shareholders, that the investors, the owners of this company, are looking to this person to make the most amount of money, the bottom line. So this person is definitely getting paid the big bucks, but at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, then this person is also the first person that's going to be called out. And that gives me the perfect segue to get into the article that is posted online. And I hope that you had the opportunity to read it. It's a very quick read, but it definitely demonstrates, how important it is to make sure that you know who your friends are, you know who you're associating with, because you could be guilty by association, and your actions are always being scrutinized. So let's get into this article. Again, hopefully everyone had the opportunity to read it. So just a basic rundown of what happened. The financier, Jeffrey Epstein, a little bit about him. He was this major guy on Wall Street, and what happened was he was convicted of several charges of sex trafficking. So it was known in the business community that James E. Staley, who's the chief executive officer of Barclays Bank, and Jeffrey Epstein, they had business dealings. They were colleagues, they were friends. So because of this, and because of this association, Shareborn investors, the single largest investors of Barclays Bank, they were not having that. They completely saw that this association was grounds for dismissal. And being that they were the single largest shareholders of this company, they did everything within their power to make sure that their concerns were heard, and that they were able to forge ahead and petition to get Mr. Staley removed from his office. Like, that's really crazy, but it really just goes back to show, how much power the individual shareholders have, especially when you're talking about a shareholder who holds the single most or the single most amount of shares within a company has, with regard to your career, with regard to your ability to stay in your position as the leader of this company. So, in the end result, unfortunately, or fortunately for Mr. Staley, they were not able to, get the board to be swayed to their side. But it just goes to show you that the shareholders do have a lot of power. And as the chief executive officer, you really have to be mindful of every single thing that you're doing, and you really have to be mindful of your shareholders and the owners of the company, because at the end of the day, you truly do represent their best interests. And at the end of the day, it always boils down to the bottom line, which is how much money are you making for the company? Do you represent the company's best interests? Is your reputation going to be beneficial or is it going to be detrimental? And we love you as long as you're bringing in the big bucks and you're flourishing and helping the company flourish. But as soon as that, bad reputation or that taint is associated with your name, there could be some serious repercussions. And thankfully for Mr. Staley, his associations with Mr. Epstein didn't deteriorate or completely destroy his career, because if you look up Jeffrey Epstein and just look at what he was convicted of and how he was sent to prison because of his, sex trafficking allegations and later convictions, you really understand the importance of, you are the face of a company, especially a large company that is publicly traded, and how that, has to dictate how you're perceived and the actions that you take. So with that, I just want to thank you for participating or viewing this link, and I do want to leave the discussion, with two questions for you. I do have two questions for you, which will be posted later. The first question is, if you were a Barclays shareholder, if you were a Barclays shareholder, how would you vote? Would you vote to keep the CEO in office, given that he was associated to Mr. Epstein when he was alive, or would you vote to get rid of him, and why? And secondly, if you were a CEO and later learned that you were tied to a certain individual, what would your immediate response be? Like, how would you react to this information? How would you mitigate the circumstances and essentially clear your name? Again, being CEO of a company is a major responsibility. It's a major task. You're a politician and you're an executive all at the same time, and it's crucial that you keep all of this in mind, and it's crucial that you understand that you represent the company. You represent yourself, but you represent the company, and you represent the shareholders that own the company. And at their discretion, they can get rid of you when they are not satisfied. So if you are going to be a future CEO, make sure that you keep your nose clean and that you just do your best to keep all of your investors happy. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope I didn't bore you to death, and I will see you next time, or I'll see you when I see you. Have a great one. Bye-bye.